All right, hi everybody. Um, I was asked yesterday if I was going to send an email about Murph, and I didn't think about it, but I wanted to do a video. I've done a video before. You probably see it in the YouTube channel. You can look for it if you want to watch it and see if I'm saying the same stuff. But I wanted to record a new video this year because I was asked about an email, and I thought, not everybody has done Murph. I've done Murph a lot, so maybe this will be helpful. As a coach and athlete, I can share some strategy stuff, some experience stuff. So what Murph is, I guess I should say, we do it every Memorial Day, we meaning CrossFit Tertiary and the CrossFit community in general. Murph is a hero workout. Starts with a mile run. You complete 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, partitioned however you want, and then you run another mile. And then the prescribed version, you wear a 20 or 14 pound vest. Murph, the hard part of Murph is not the intensity, it's not very intense, it is the volume. It's a lot specifically of push-ups, but 1, 2, and 300 of those movements is a lot of volume for those movements. So that's where the difficulty in Murph lies. There are much harder workouts, I think. the 7 I think is probably the hardest that you'll find, but there's other versions, right? Or there's other workouts that are harder. But Murph has a reputation of being the hardest, and I don't think it's the hardest, but it certainly has some volume, and there's certainly special considerations. It's a good test. So, prep considerations. You want to hydrate and think about your electrolytes. I don't really use electrolytes. If you do, or you think you need some, just use them based on the package directions. Make sure you drink enough water. You can calculate how much water you need. It's based on your body weight a day, but you want to stay hydrated the days leading up to it, because you will be sweating, and for us in central North Dakota, it is always hot and humid on Murph, which I personally love, but not everybody likes it. So make sure you are prepared for that. Fuel properly. Make sure you're eating enough calories the day before and the day of, depending when you do it the day of. You expect to move for between a half hour and an hour, depending on your variation and your fitness level. So that's considerable time exerting yourself. Make sure you have enough calories to do that. Stretch the day before, the day of, and along with that, so training prep, I was going to say this earlier, but a lot of people think they need to train for Murph. You don't really need to train for Murph. If you are doing CrossFit at an affiliate, and the affiliate, like us, is using a good general physical preparedness CrossFit program, you are just fine. Your training every day is exactly what you need to do for Murph or Grace or Isabel or whatever tomorrow's workout is. That's the point of doing CrossFit. So you should be good. If you're not training at an affiliate, hopefully you're doing something similar to functional fitness, constantly varied, performed at high intensity. but you don't need to train specifically for Murph. The day before, I would take an active rest day. You don't need to do nothing. You don't really want to do nothing. Go for a walk, jog, stretch. I try to just do like a 20-minute bike and stretch, but loosen up for it, be ready for it, and you should be good. You don't need to train specifically for it, and you want to be recovered for it. Make sure you sleep good the days leading up to Murph. That's my biggest problem. So, sleep. Stretching before and warming up before. One battle I've had since starting coaching is people not warming up, not wanting to warm up. I don't want to warm up myself, but you have to, you should, to prepare the movements, prepare your mobility, make sure you do not hurt yourself. You want to get your heart rate up before it needs to be up. And warming up is a good way to do that. So make sure you warm up. If you're doing Murph at an affiliate, they should warm you up properly. We allow time at ours for a good warm up, so think about that. Now I want to talk about scaling, and then I'm going to talk about rep schemes. So scaling, if you have never done Murph before, consider doing it without a vest before doing it with a vest. And alternatives, maybe you do a half Murph with a vest if you really want to do a vest. If you have experience rucking or with body armor or with a vest training and you haven't done Murph before, which is usually one of the first ones you do with a vest, but whatever, maybe you haven't. You should be fine, but it changes it for sure. It changes the runs. They turn more into a shuffle. It changes specifically the push-ups and pull-ups. Squats doesn't change a whole lot, but it's just a little different than air squats. So consider, with the volume, consider Murph without a vest first, and then with a vest. You don't. Full Murph without a vest, and then, just consider it. Other good ways to modify, half a Murph is a good way to modify, with or without a vest. A third, or I guess it'd be like, roughly a quarter or whatever. I go to 75% and 50% is kind of the numbers I go to. 75, 66, and 50. So you do half Murph, you do 2/3 of a Murph, or you do 3/4 of a Murph are good scaling options. Fun ways to scale, probably my favorite way to scale, is doing it with a buddy. And there's different ways to do that. The two main ways I see is you break up the run into 800s or 400s relay style. You go, then I go, until you get your mile done. And then you break up the middle doing Cindy, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats, one working at a time until you're done with the 100, 200, 300. And then you go run the last run. Or you run together, and then you do one at a time. Those are, you could run an 800 together too, that would be fine, and then do the reps inside if the running's a problem. Those are my favorite ways to do it because you get to do it with a buddy. It cuts down the overall volume without cutting down the overall time. And you can keep your intensity up there if you have a built-in work and rest. You push harder when you're working, especially with a partner, because that rest is built in. So if you are considering scaling Murph, my favorite thing to do is find a partner. And then if you need help finding how to break that up, let a coach know. But that is my favorite way. You can, of course, do them half by yourself too. And then, of course, the big scale is not wearing a vest. Not everybody needs to wear a vest or should wear a vest, so that's a good scale. And I'm going to talk about this. This is a good segue into your rep schemes. Because I almost consider it a scale. I'm not going to say that you did it scaled if you do it like this, but I think it's kind of changing the purpose of the workout. So I kind of consider it a scale where you break up the push-ups, pull-ups, squats into not even sets where you're doing 5 pull-ups, 5 push-ups, 15 squats, 5 push-ups, because push-ups are the first thing to go. And that's, you're fighting fatigue, which is smart, don't get me wrong, but in my view it kind of defeats what the purpose of Murph should be. And I'm sure people disagree with what I think Murph should be, so that's fine, but that's one thing. And I've done it like that before too, and I've done it where I've done 15 rounds. I broke my air squats up. I don't remember the numbers. I could figure it out. But you break your air squats up so the last 5 rounds or so you don't do air squats to save your legs for the run, stuff like that. Kind of consider it scaling. It's not technically, but you know what I mean. So, but for straight up breakup strategies, I like even rounds. And I wrote down my favorite because I recorded this whole thing and forgot what my favorite breakup scheme was. So I wrote it down again. For a beginner, my favorite breakup scheme is just Cindy. Cindy is a 20-minute AMRAP normally, but the reps are 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. 20 rounds of that. That is your 1, 2, 300s, and then you go run. That's a great beginner, intermediate, advanced breakup scheme. It's fast. You don't really overly fatigue, and it's repeatable, which I like. I forgot to say that about the 5-5-5, whatever, 5-5, 15-5. Repeatability is a little limited with that, and I'll talk about why when I cover the rep scheme that I do. So my favorite, Cindy. My second favorite for intermediate, advanced, is 10 rounds of 10, 20, 30. I like that because it breaks up nice and even. You bring muscle fatigue into it, so mentally it's a little tougher. As you become more intermediate and advanced as an athlete, you can handle more volume at a time, so those movements will be a little more doable at the higher volumes. And that one's repeatable, which I like. The version that I do, and I like it for a few reasons. It was, I believe, 2017. Somebody's going to fact check me. I hope they do. CrossFit Games, and they've done it a few times at the games. But one year it was you run a mile, you do 5 rounds of 20 pull-ups, 40 push-ups, and 60 air squats. That is my favorite because it is very mentally challenging. It's not super fast for me. I consider myself an average CrossFitter because fatigue will be a factor. But Murph should be a test too, right? So those things considered, it makes it a better test, I think. It's not as fast. It's more mentally and physically taxing. I think it's a better test. And they did it in the game, so I have some clout there to spout for why it's a good version. And repeatable. I've done it that way for a few years now. That's probably the way I'll do it until I can't do it that way anymore. So that's what I'm going to do. The way that I absolutely do not like, and I've seen people do it like this, and it bugs me as a coach and somebody who cares about CrossFit and athletes, I do not like straight through. Run a mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats. Because I think, to speak my truth, fatigue in those movements becomes such an issue, specifically the push-up, that injury is a bit of a risk, and it defeats, again, the purpose of what Murph should be. By that point, you are breaking your 200 push-ups in a row up so much that I just don't like it. Don't like it. Don't suggest you do it. If you insist, be my guest, but not my thing, man. So, I think that's my whole video. I don't like ending on a negative note. So think of a positive note. I'm going to, if you're part of our gym, does anybody not in our gym watch these? Maybe. I don't do anything. So a couple people have asked me, oh, what are you doing this summer? And it's like, I don't do anything. I have 2 highlights of summer. One is Murph, and one is the Coulee Trail Classic, which is June 9th. And then, like, my summer is just me doing the same thing every day, which I like, don't get me wrong. But so I want to, I'm thinking about, so the end of May you have Murph, beginning of June you have the Coulee Trail. I want to have, like, middle of July, like the weekend after the 4th, and middle of August, before school starts. I want to have longer, mentally and physically demanding tests that we can do outside at a track with, one will have no equipment, one will have minimal equipment. And then that can be something to look forward to for this guy and hopefully other people throughout the summer. And I know it'll be on a Saturday afternoon in the heat of the day because that's my style. Murph won't be because Murph is in the morning because it's Memorial Day. But like 1 o'clock on a Saturday in the heat at a track, in the summer, a longer workout, testing it. I think I've came up with the 2 workouts that I want to do. And then the last one, then one in September, would be the Bismarck Marathon, half marathon, 10K, whatever. So that's a good positive note to end on. Look for that. We'll see if, when I do this video next year, if I remember that and we keep doing it. So, look for that. Murph, it's fun. If you have tips, like, share them in the comments or whatever kids say. Do people comment on my videos? If you have questions, email me. I don't check the comments. Maybe it sends me an email if somebody comments. If you have questions, get a hold of me. I would love to answer them. Nobody asked me questions though, so bummer. Okay, Murph, get it.